The moral argument around a vegan diet is pretty foggy to say the least. They tend to brush off any arguments that contradict their way of eating, regardless of how ridiculous they are. And there's two reasons for that. One, they are simply cute, cuddly animal lovers that value piggies more than humans. Oink, oink. Two, they are just being paid to be part of the vegan agenda that is destroying our society. Those same vegans will be the first to eat a bowl of lentils that were harvested by grinding up rabbits in a combine, claiming that since they didn't intentionally kill the animal, it's okay. Does that mean I can say I'm vegan? I went to the grocery store and bought some steak, but since I didn't see the cow die, it's unintentional. Then I accidentally dropped the steak on the grill, some salt and pepper slipped out of my hand as well, then clumsy old me slid that red, juicy piece of steak into my mouth completely on accident, 100% unintentional. There has been a recent study demonstrating that plants emit airborne sounds when stressed. These sounds can be detected by certain organisms up to several meters away. And that suggests that animals, humans, possibly other plants, can use these sounds emitted by the plant to gain information about the plant's condition. Almost sounds like communicating between humans. The tomato plant reacted to stress when it was dry, when it was cut. So if the plant is reacting to negative stimuli in its environment, can we consider that suffering? The vegans have drawn an artificial line, made things up along the way when it comes to their morals, deciding what's okay, what's not okay. They want to play God with nature, but that's not how it works. All life on this planet is trying to survive and reproduce, and that manifests itself in different ways. Why is it up to us? You can see certain arguments, certain sayings being placed by, big business for these vegan sheeple to follow along and parrot. Just like we're seeing carnivores do the same thing. Eat meat, drink water. Eat the meat you like and can afford. It's ridiculous. And these vegans will tell you that since we're unable to tell if the plant is feeling pain, it doesn't matter. But that's the same thing when you hook a fish. Here is a quote from PETA. Fish don't audibly scream when they're impaled on hooks or grimace when the hooks are ripped out from their mouths, but their behavior offers evidence of their suffering, if you're willing to look. For example, when Braithwaite and her colleagues exposed fish to irritating chemicals, the animals behaved as any of us might. They lost their appetite, their gills beat faster, and they rubbed the affected areas against the side of the tank. So the fish are reacting to negative stimuli, just like the plants are reacting to negative stimuli, but because the plant isn't a cute little goldfish squirming around in the fishbowl, the vegans don't care about it. Just like they don't care about the agrochemicals, herbicides, pesticides, fungicides that are doused on our food supply, poisoning themselves, as well as the trillions of dead bugs and insects as a result of that are being harvested and ground into your corn, soy, and wheat garbage. Under that condition that plants emit signals when under stress, imagine how loud a field would be when you run a harvester through it. Those acres and acres of crops are essentially a mass murdering of plants. In addition to all of those insects, as we said, how would it sound to another plant if all of his millions of buddies were just getting, chopped up in a combine? But not all those sounds are the same. The scientists in the study were able to differentiate the sounds to the point where they could tell if the plant was ready to be watered. The sounds changing at different stages days after watering. Some of you guys are telling me, Frank, put your hands in your pockets. Stop moving. You guys rather have me sit like this? Hi, how are you guys today? Vegans think, plants don't feel what do you guys want me to do? Stand here and talk like a robot? Trying to make it fun. Then we have another one of the vegan lies that is accepted as fact. Vegans will say, most of the crops are fed to livestock, so you evil meat eaters are worse than us. Just like they'll say that you only need to supplement B12 on the vegan diet. Yeah, I'm sure a B12 shot would have saved those poor babies and children. There are different grades of crops, the majority of which are not fit for human consumption. So a large percentage of the total yield, as high as 70, 80, 90%, is fed to animals because it doesn't fit the quality requirements of a certain product or a grocery store shelf. This is obviously dependent on the climate, region, quality of harvest that year. Even the crops that are fit for human consumption have a lot of byproduct. There is so much waste, stalks, stems that are fed to animals, sometimes even considered forage. So your grass-fed meat from the supermarket might be corn-fed stalks and soy stems. And this is a perfect example of what vegans do in their arguments. They simplify complex topics because they don't want to think about it, and they certainly don't want the sheeple to think about it. You know, if you don't want to consider the actual logistics of agriculture, just like you don't want to consider the logistics of nutrition with all the other vitamins that our bodies need outside of B12. This always leads back to the same problem, the control of the food supply. The American public, as we've said many times, being complete sheeple. People don't have a high enough IQ to identify special interest funding, corporate interest. The big agricultural companies in control of the food supply influence the diet culture depending on what they need to sell. Those fruits and vegetables on grocery store shelves have a disgustingly high profit margin, especially when you consider their caloric density compared to animal foods. And when they go bad on the shelf, the companies are suffering. But if you get nut job vegans to throw 30 bananas in a blender every day, those bananas won't go bad anymore. You know, imagine if you're selling an avocado for $3 or $4 each in New York in the middle of the winter. You don't want that to go bad. Same thing with the carnivores. Meat sales are down, boys. Better get on the Joe Rogan podcast and tell people how awesome grain-fed feedlot beef makes me feel. And although we have larger carnivores like Mikhaila Peterson and other people going on large format podcasts, you also have large YouTube channels like the Buff Dudes eating poison grain-fed animal foods, just like there are even larger YouTube channels following, I went vegan for 30 days, tee-hee, don't forget to buy our app. Then there are companies controlled by big agriculture even selling grass-fed beef, typically through a strategy called astroturfing, pretending to be a grassroots organic company. Plus, not all grass-fed beef is the same, which I'll talk about in the future. So most people that are involved in diet culture who are trying to be healthy, you know, from a general population standpoint, fall into one of these special interest traps. But if we take a step back and look at the big picture, the larger part of the public is still sucked into following a standard American diet. The only diet that is viewed in a somewhat positive light on mainstream media tends to be veganism, with vigorous opposition to keto and carnivore, but you still see, you know, things trickled into the modern media. Hey, once every few months they'll say meat is good for you again. They'll push a vegan story. You know, Abe's vegan muffins were on Fox News the other day. So I guess these diets do slip into the modern media if the agenda is strong enough, if it's powerful enough. And it's confusing once you think about it, because those same people stuffing Americans full of seed oils are selling fake grass-fed beef. So thank you guys for joining me. If you could please like the video, of course subscribe if you haven't. Hit that bell icon. If you want to support me further, check out my book, The Ancestral Indigenous Diet, down below. You know, several days ago, we did a carnivore diet meal plan. That's for free on my website, frank-tufano.com. We did a collab with Blair Walnuts last week. Definitely check that out if you haven't. Of course, you can go to Frankie's Naturals, Frankie's Free Range Meat, all that good stuff down below. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.